Well, hello again, everybody. Super glad to see you here today. Today, we have with us a special guest. Her name is Lisa Alexander, and she is an award-winning storyteller and filmmaker. She's directed and produced documentaries for nonprofit clients for over 5 years. Currently, she's in pre-production for her first feature film, My Father, the Queen. She's an author, speaker, wife, and mom, and loves her life after all of the trauma. So welcome, Lisa. Super glad to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the invitation.
Great. So tell us a little story. I know I'm looking at this right away, My Father, the Queen, the movie. I'm assuming that has a lot to do with why you're here and how you got started on this journey.
Absolutely. So the film is particular, it's a Black daughter's story about what it is to grow up with a closeted gay father. And we experienced their trauma, both of their traumas, and what it was to live and to be and to exist. This is during the 80s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. And so, the LGBT community, for as much as they're going through currently, especially trans people, but even back in the 70s and 80s, it was so far worse. We like to say that when we're talking about the film, that did our main character, did her father, did he choose to be closeted, or was it something that was forced upon him? Because if he did decide in the 70s to be loud and proud, where would he live? Because who was going to rent to him? What job would he have? Because people would discriminate based on, how he presented, if he presented very feminine. And so there's just so many things. And so because he was not able to get what he needed and to live authentically, it affected his ability to parent in a way that that child needed to be parented. And so the story is loosely based on real life experiences.
Okay.
But I know about daddy issues. I know what it is to be rejected by a parent and to experience that trauma and never being good enough and never being able to win their affection or win their validation. And so this is what the story is about: a woman's struggle with her daddy issues, even into adulthood. Again, it's loosely based on my life, but it's at the root of it are daddy issues, and how do you heal from it?
Absolutely. And I think a lot of us have those daddy issues. And I can't even imagine. It's like I had issues with my parents. They were both alcoholics. One was abusive, one was not. But they were dealing with their own demons. So it seems like at the time, your father was dealing with his own demons. I mean, he was wrestling this inner war of, do I talk to people? I mean, I don't know if he, like you said, you don't know if that was his choice or not to come out, but he's dealing with his own issues. So by default, he's going to be somewhat emotionally unavailable to you. And that's where I think so many people suffer from that trauma of that. And tell us, I mean, like, how do you think that impacted going into your life now? Like, what are the issues that you developed from that?
So I can tell you that I would walk into, so as a business owner, there's a certain confidence you have to have, because you are a salesperson and you have to be able to sell. If you want to be successful in business, you've got to be able to sell, be able to communicate and talk to. I was so unsure of myself, never really certain. Is my work good enough? And so this was very early in my career, and lots of therapy later. I am much better, much healed in certain spaces. Thankful for that. But it just showed up in my opinion of myself and always needing outward validation. Did you like it? Is it good? And then just always needing that constant feedback, which is a side effect of not being validated by those that love you and that are grooming you and supposedly preparing you for adulthood. It was very much so, it impacted my self-esteem on such huge levels. And it was work that had to be done, and, dig into the whys. And then you have to get into, well, I've got to validate myself. And so there's a story that I tell all the time. I was sharing with one of my Bohemian friends. She's an incredible woman. She's a coach. And, I'm, telling her probably for the 50th time about, my daddy issues and my woes. And she says, Lisa, look, and I will not try to imitate her Bohemian accent. That would just not be right, because
I would butcher it too.
it would not be right. But she told me this. She says, Lisa, she says, you keep asking that man for $1 and he don't have $1 to give you. She says, either find somebody else to give you $1 or give yourself $1. Oh,
That is beautifully put.
so if he doesn't have it to get, you've got to either do it for yourself. And I would recommend you do that for yourself. Thankfully, I did have because what happens is when other people tell you, oh my God, that was amazing. And I would always defer. And I think that's a woman thing also. And then I think it's always also a trauma response. Oh my God, that was awesome. You made the best apple pie. Or, oh my God, that work you did, it was just amazing. And you go, oh, it was nothing. And, you kind of want it, but then, it's like you defer it as well. And I think that's a trauma response. And we don't think that we're ever good enough. We don't think our work is ever good enough. And we're always, there's also a response when you haven't been given that validation, is that you overachieve.
Absolutely.
And
100% perfectionism at its
oh my God.
worst.
Oh my God. And so that's part of what we see in the film as well. Our main character, her name is Kelly, and we see that overachieving, part of her personality. And it's at its root, it's from her trauma, her
Yeah,
not being able to connect to her father.
absolutely. I mean, mine was more of, I think, a mommy issue. My mother was the abusive alcoholic, the drunk, the beat me up, the tell me
Wow.
she hated me at 5 years old, wished I had never been born, wished I was dead, locked me in closets. I mean,
Wow.
there is no feeling good after that. There in your
Mm,
subconscious, I mean, for
mm,
many, many years. Now, of course, I've dealt with all that. But it took a lot of, like we were just talking to someone right before this, it's peeling back those layers, peeling
mhm.
back and getting down to the root cause. And it's like, we want to tell people, like you said, looking from that external validation, you might not ever get it. You got
True.
to find it in yourself.
You
Even,
have to.
and sometimes you have to dig so deep, because like the big thing right now is the positive affirmations.
Hmm.
I can tell myself, I love you, you're amazing, you're beautiful,
Yes.
you're lovely, you're all of
Yes.
this stuff. But if your subconscious mind does not truly believe that, all of your reactions and actions and emotions are going to come from a place of not believing it. So like you
Absolutely.
said, when someone says, oh, Tammy, that's a great job, you go, oh, it was my dad's. My dad did it. Oh,
Hmm.
Tammy, oh, you're great at this. Oh no, it's no big deal. And
It's
that's
nothing.
all of your life. So you have to somehow find it
Hmm.
in you to pull it out and find it in yourself. Now, let me ask you, were you fortunate enough to have the two dads growing up? Did you know all this was going on?
No, we did not
Ah,
find this out until my sister and I, we were good and grown when we
oh,
made
wow.
this discovery. We had zero idea, right? Just no idea. But then when we started to put two and two together, she and I would go, it's like, okay. And it's like, oh, and so when we finally made this discovery, and we would talk to like cousins, and they were like, y'all just now finding out. And it's like, apparently it was this open secret that everybody else knew, but we didn't. And we were, when I say we were good and grown, we were good and grown when
So
we
was there
finally
a
put
mom
to,
in the picture?
yeah, my parents, they stayed together
Okay.
for 14 years. They stayed married for 14 years.
But the whole time it was the closet going on.
Mhm.
Wow. So imagine just the guilt and the shame of him not even being authentic enough in himself to come out and talk to his own children.
Absolutely. Even
Yeah.
as grown adults. And so, and then you have to remember, so we have baby boomers and the generation before, and it was like, we don't talk about any of this. We don't talk, we don't communicate, we don't share feelings. It was always like pulling teeth trying to find out about how he grew up, and that's for really any parents. My grandmother, that woman told stories upon stories, and you'd be like, Nana, oh my God.
Yeah. TMI, baby.
Yeah,
TMI.
but I love and I appreciate every story she ever told me. Now that she's passed away, I appreciate every story she ever told. Even I don't care how many times she tells it, because now I retell those same stories, and it's to keep and honor her memory and to keep that alive. So I appreciate that woman for her sharing. But that other generation, and it's like, I don't know. and my mom passed away. So I don't know too much about her childhood growing up. It's not something that she talked about. There's clues that you kind of have to pick up and try to make sense of, but
Read between the lines kind of thing.
yeah, yeah.
And how old were you when she passed?
Mama was 65, so she just died maybe about 6, 7 years ago. But I still think that was too young, and I think I was cheated. But
Oh yeah.
that, yeah,
Did you have a good relationship with your mother?
we did. It was okay. I'll say yes, but it was a mother and daughter relationship, and it was like there were times when it's like, oh my God, she's on my nerve, and then other times like, hey, mom, I just want to sit in your lap, the kind of thing. And she was very, very strong-willed. My mother was very strong-willed individual, and she was going to do what she wanted to do, and her health failed her. Um, and so she had 12 strokes before she passed.
Wow, bless her heart at
Yeah.
65, young.
Yeah, that is
Young.
young.
To have
That
12,
is young.
yeah.
That's young. And so, to go over to her house and I smell fried fish, I'm like, who did this? And why is somebody cooking fried fish for a woman who has high blood pressure? It's a no. So, she wanted what she wanted. And I understand, food is such an emotional thing, and especially if
Yes,
that's how you coped. And so,
yes.
it would just those tugging, typical mother-daughter.
Yeah. Yeah, I always say I'm blessed. I've had, I think, 2 arguments with my daughter, and she's 26 now.
Oh,
And
wow.
one, we had way too much to drink, and she decided to come out and tell me she didn't appreciate me not putting more thought into her name. And I'm like, what?
Oh,
Like, like,
oh,
okay, we're gonna just pretend we're gonna chalk that up to a couple
oh,
of vodka cranberries and just move on. And then the other one was she was little, and I think I told her to stop being bitchy. And she thought I called her the B word. And I'm like, no, I didn't. I just told you not to
oh,
act like that. And she was like, and that was literally like our 2 arguments. And I'm sure I've gotten on her nerves because I'm a mom. You know what I mean? Like I'm
yes,
doing my job.
yes.
But maybe I always say it's a blessing in disguise that I was a traumatized child, because I did my kids took the brunt of a lot of it. They're grown now. I have 9, my
Mhm.
youngest is 19, but you do things as parents. I totally overcompensated.
Oh,
It's
absolutely,
100%.
absolutely. And
The
so,
boundary thing, nah. But I am blessed and lucky and gifted, and and just overly blessed that they're all good kids. Like they
that's
didn't
a
take that and run amok. So
yeah, you that's a beautiful thing.
yeah, I was very fortunate in that. But yeah, it's so I mean, I just have like the movie, I'm super excited to have it come out. But I'm just thinking, I'm just trying to put the family dynamics, I guess, together more. So that you didn't
Mhm.
know this whole thing growing up. Was your mother aware?
I believe my mom knew
Okay.
after the fact, after she got married. And
Okay.
there's some scenes that play out in the movie that will have you that it's like she knew. She
Right.
knew. She knew.
So my whole thing is, like you said, you got to live this authentic life. So none of you did. None of
No.
none of you did. And
Oh my
you
God,
know,
no. No.
authenticity is the core of our being, and our being able to express ourselves honestly and stuff. It's I mean, obviously you loved your father, obviously you loved your mother,
Yeah, absolutely.
um I mean, I was 26 before I realized I didn't know what unconditional love was.
Mm.
And I say that because my grandma, who I worshiped the ground she worked on and loved her more than life, she didn't know me, because we never shared family secrets.
Ah,
She didn't know the real me. So I'm like, I didn't even give her the chance to love me unconditionally. You know what I mean? Does
mm.
that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. Walls and barriers, and it's like you can only go so far. I
Hmm.
get that.
So,
Mhm.
I mean, to me, it all goes back to that authenticity. It all stems from that and everything. I mean, you're doing
Yes.
great now, though. I mean, you're doing great things. I'm looking, you're a
Yes.
storyteller, a filmmaker. I
Yes.
mean, tell us more about what you do.
Sure. So I help nonprofits tell their stories. So this is my way of contributing to good trouble. So if you remember Senator John Lewis, he says, if you're going to get in trouble, make sure it's good trouble, right? And so this is my way of making sure that people that are deeply entrenched in all kinds of good trouble and doing things to help the marginalized in our communities, to help them thrive, to exist, to be, fight for the rights of others. This is how we stay in good trouble, and I make sure that those stories get told. So we've done documentaries for a few of those nonprofits. We'll do videos, short videos. We do PSAs. We then help them with their marketing, their communications, PR, get them earned media, which is always a good thing. And that's just what we do, is to help amplify these stories.
That's awesome. So, I mean, that's your way of giving back. That's your way
Yeah.
of reaching out to way more people. I mean, obviously your movie is going to probably reach millions and millions of people, but you're going to, I mean, you're globally helping so many different people by helping people share their stories. And
That's the goal.
yeah,
That's
and
the
it's
goal.
kind of, I feel like we've kind of come back into that, I call it the woo-woo hippie age, and I love it, where it's,
Yes.
peace and expression and voice your opinion and be yourself. And we're at a
Yeah.
good place. Like, your father was not at a good place. That was when,
No.
the 70s, wasn't that, or like when AIDS was starting, and it was like
80s,
everything
90s.
was so
Yes.
taboo then.
Yes.
And the
Yes. Yes. Yes.
stigma was, so deep, and the shame, it's just horrible. Like now, maybe things would be totally different for him now,
Yeah. If
I think.
so it really depends. So if you do the work, let's say you do the healing work to heal past all your traumas, and you could live authentically, they have dating sites for mature folks everywhere on the spectrum, on the rainbow. And even if you're not in the rainbow community, my sister and I said we would have preferred him have a boyfriend named Pierre and a dog named Fifi and live happily ever after, if it meant that he could be authentic, he could, begin to. At that point, we didn't need parenting, but if we could have a healthy relationship, we would have signed on. We would have gone over for Sunday dinners, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. But you
Yeah.
missed out on that because, your mother would have coped. She would have survived.
She did. My mother.
I mean, she would have survived right then and there had they said,
Yeah.
There's something's not right. Let's just do it. Let's just stop this,
14 years. They were married 14 years.
Yeah.
14 years.
That's crazy. That's,
Mhm.
it's, to me, it's just mind blowing. I mean, I guess I'm one of the older generation, like the older of my generation, where
Mhm.
to me, I'm always like, I don't care who you are, black, white, purple, yellow. I don't care. I don't care if you sleep with men, women. I don't care. You do you do, I'll do me,
Yes.
and
Because that does not impact me whatsoever.
yeah, if you're not hurting me, I don't give a rat's butt what you're doing with your life. You know what I mean? I don't care if you want to get married and share the same health insurance. Hell, there's I'm trying to fight for health insurance.
Do you see that? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
It's unbelievable. So I do feel that we're in a better place now, but that doesn't help your past and your trauma and
And there are still the way that things are going now, there's this level of hatred and violence that's happening again on a greater level now, that we're matching violence of years past. So just recently, I would say within the last 2 or 3 months, there was a business owner. She was a white woman, owned a business, and she was not a member of the LGBT community, but she raised a flag. She had a flag in front of her place of business, was shot and killed.
So how it's like you're fighting against pro this and pro that and love these people and be kind and this
Yeah.
matters and that matters. Well,
Yeah.
lives matter, period.
Yeah.
And,
And so she lost her life just as an ally.
as an ally.
Just as an ally, she lost her life. And then of course you have all the mass shootings and the clubs and things of that nature, and all the anti-trans laws. At this point, I don't know where we're going with all this.
And I was talking to someone the other day and I said, it's not a Democrat and Republican and black and white, and it's a good versus evil, literally flat out. It's just good versus evil. You either love the human kind and are compassionate and live your life with compassion, or you don't. And there's only life is life is a world of extreme, of polar opposites. It's either good or bad. And yes, there's in between, but in your
Absolutely.
heart of hearts, you're either good or you're not. You know, you
I,
either love or what's the opposite of love? You know, it's
if we could live and let live, I like that. And it's like live and let live. And it's like, so I don't like gelato. Should we get rid of everybody that does not like gelato? Are they all worthy of condemnation because they eat and love gelato? No.
well,
I just
I'd
don't
be out
appreciate
because I don't like gelato.
I don't appreciate gelato. That doesn't mean that people that do are
Mhm.
it is it's that we don't even have to agree on certain things. You can agree that we can disagree on, the best movie ever was Sister Act 2, and that's the hill I'm gonna die on. And it's like, no, it was Sister Act 1. Okay, it was Whoopi Goldberg.
Right.
But
But
all
at
right,
the end of the day, are you hurting anybody by caring either? You know what I mean? It's like,
that
just
part,
let, I
that
mean, there's
part,
things that pop into my mind. People say
that
things
part.
and I'm thinking, that, that initial little evil little guy on my shoulder is like, well, that was pretty stupid, but I would never say, you do you, I do me,
Absolutely. We don't have to agree. We don't. And I think it needs to be made okay again that we don't have to see eye to eye on same issues, but I can still respect you. And that doesn't mean that I should unlife you
Right.
because we don't agree, right?
Absolutely.
That's not what that means.
Right. Exactly. So tell me a little bit about your healing journey. Like, you obviously, did you have an epiphany? I always like to ask people, was there an
Mm.
aha moment where you went, bam, like, I got to get help?
So my healing journey, I am so sorry. I thought I turned that off.
Oh, you're fine.
So my healing journey it was over time. And so I've always been a journaler. So I like to say that for Black folk, going to therapy just recently became okay because 70s, 80s, even maybe up into the 90s. And it's like, that's what white folk did. That's what the people in my community said. White folk go to therapy. We don't go to therapy. We go to church and we have Jesus. That is therapy. That's what you do. And so even if you look back at my mom, it's like, where could she have gone and who could she have talked to about what was going on in her house? She had no one to talk to, right? I mean, how so I gave my mom all kinds of grace and just love and forgiveness. But okay, sir.
Busy woman.
That's my husband trying to call me, and so I do apologize.
No, you're
Um,
fine. You're fine. Go on.
that who would she talk to? And so again, I gave her so much grace because I don't know how I would have coped
Mm-mm.
with the truth that was living with and knew. It's like how that impacted her as a woman, how just her decision make. I have no idea. And so I give her all kinds of grace for being able to move forward, how she moved forward and was able to, be successful in the things that she wanted to do. And so for me, I tell people, and it's like, please don't judge prior generations. And it's like, don't even judge Gen Xers. Um, on freedoms and liberties that you now have. Now it's okay for you to go. Gen Z, y'all can go to therapy and nobody blinks an eye. It's okay. It was not okay for me to go to therapy or even mention going to a therapist. 2000s, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe so within the past 20 years. And it's been a struggle been a challenge for our community to say that it is okay to get therapy and to talk to someone. So my healing journey started with me journaling.
Okay.
I have over 20 years of journals,
Wow.
20 years of journals. And so when it became okay, and it's like, I would have these epiphanies, over and over again. I would have these epiphanies and I would, just journal. And it's like, all these aha moments in my journal. I'm journaling. It's like, okay. And then it would make sense. And then I could process it. And so I would write about what I had just experienced. And then it's like, sit with it. Okay. And then write again. And so journaling was my path to healing. And then eventually we got to a therapist and they made it all make sense.
And they probably told you, well, how do I start, Mr. Doctor or Miss Doctor? And they probably said, start journaling. So, I mean, you were intelligent enough in your wisdom to get a jump start on it,
Yeah.
because and that can be a lifeline. I talk to people sometimes and I'll say,
Yeah.
just start being aware, like sitting with your
Yes.
feelings and write them down, put them on
Yes.
paper. And well, now, and the good thing is that when My Father the Queen, is that the
Yes.
title of it? When that comes out, now you're going to transcribe your journals, and now you got a book series. So we're going to see so much more of you, girl.
Woo. And I've been trying to decide, what do I do with these journals? Because they're over 20 years old, and there's this transformation. You can see there's a very obvious line in a transformation, and you can see the growth and the healing happen. And so
yeah, it's beautiful. And I always say, like, I was talking to someone the other day and I was like, man, I wish they had Google when I was going through what I was going through.
Oh my God.
I can remember going down to the Wayne County Public Library, sitting on the floor in this tiny little psychology section, like looking through the index going, okay, suicide, depression, anxiety, like, what do you do, you know? And there wasn't online therapists, and you walked
there wasn't online.
It wasn't online. Yes, I know.
No, right? there was, okay, remember Firefox and AOL, you know, that was new technology.
That was it.
The internet was the wild, wild west. And it was like, none of this, these resources weren't available yet on the internet. No,
and they weren't. And I feel like people are in such a better place now, but they still need to learn, because you still don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You're, the way you're growing up, or not you, I'm saying just in general, you might be so emotionally abandoned and neglected, and you don't know it. It's your norm. You don't know the damage that's done until you enter the workplace, until you enter into the real world. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, people are happy. Like, what do you mean I'm allowed to cry if I'm upset? Like, there's so many epiphanies that you grab, and you're like, wow, I can be a person. Like, this is amazing. But
and for me, it was realizing, and I'm still learning. So, this is all process, and we're all always learning. And just to see where your triggers are and how they show up in your life. And so, you respond a certain way because of this. And so just being able to make the correlation, and it's like, oh, it's like, oh, and it's like, so is this something that I want to correct or fix? Does it need to be fixed? Or is this, I'll call it a survival method that you've adopted during your trauma? Is it serving you well? Because you're made aware of it, and it is like, this is a trauma response. And it's like, this is very much so a trauma response. Is it serving me well? Do I need to shift and change it? And how do I then go about it? And so I'm still having those aha moments, even now still. And it's like, And it's like, why did I respond the way I responded? And it's like, and then you start rolling the tape back. It's like, okay, it all makes sense.
It's funny too, because in starting the podcast that I just recently started, I was like, okay, let's get the basics out of the way. Let's just educate on the basics. And literally my 5th and 6th episode are on coping mechanisms, and do they serve you anymore? Because we all develop them. We develop them out of survival. We develop them out of a need to just survive. I mean, literally, they're all survival. And they don't, a lot of times they don't serve us well.
No.
At all. And the key, though, I truly think, like they say, the awareness is the number one step of transformation. I think it is 100% of transformation, because until you are aware of absolutely everything, you have to be aware of it, or else there's no dealing with it.
True. And so I know that there's just certain experiences that I've had, and they resulted in me becoming a hermit. So just, it's me in my house, where I became a lover of peace. Anything that even remotely looked like it was going to disturb my peace got cut off immediately. It's like, no foolishness, no chaos, no, it's like, there's just peace. This is a sanctuary. And so it's like, that was a response. I needed that in order to heal. I needed this place to be a safe space. I needed it to be quiet. I needed incense, I needed sage burning, I needed holy oil, holy water, just, all of it in this space to just begin this healing process. And so now, and it's like, you have to do, it's like, okay, do I want to stay in this place? It's like, I like my peace. I like peace and quiet. Never was one for lots of crowds. It's like my father and I, we do have that in common. We are not. It's like, it's too many people. It's like, how many people? No, that's too many. We don't want to, that's okay.
Right.
It's like, no.
No, let's
No.
turn.
And I think it's the introvert. I think we're both introverted in a sense, but we appear extroverts. So what is that? Ambivert. And it's like, because I need my time to come back in, you know, come to myself,
Come to
right?
yourself. Yes.
Absolutely. But so I'm always looking and always learning. It's like, do I want to change that? It's like, is there time to start inviting people over? It's like, do we have dinner parties? And it's like, I don't know. I don't know. Don't know. We'll
Yeah.
see.
We'll see. Yeah.
We'll
And it's,
see.
that's that isolation is part of your defense mechanism, but, and it's like gradual. Grow your groups little at a
Yes.
time, you
Yes.
can deal with 5, and then next week you'll be able to deal with 10, and then maybe 15. And who knows, like you'll be talking in front of thousands of people soon. You never know. You just never know where
Yes.
it'll bring you, but it's
But
baby steps. It's
as
baby steps.
now speaking on a stage, oh, that I live for that. That's like air to me. It's like being able to share on a stage. Oh my God, that is life for me.
Mhm.
Now hanging out afterwards with a bunch
Yeah.
of folk, it's like,
Yeah,
mm.
we laughed so hard. We went to
Mm.
I went down to do the speaker challenge, and there was like, I had no problem getting up in front of all these people and speaking. And then
Mhm.
it was like, okay, now we're going to do an intimate little thing back at the guy that was running it. And he's having this little thing at his suite at
Okay.
the hotel, and it's going to be like 50
Yes.
people. And I'm like, 50 people crammed into one hotel room. Yeah, I think I'll go to the Yankee game with my son. It's like,
I
same
get
thing,
it.
you
I
know?
get it.
It was just what it is. Well, it was
So
super
this
nice
is
talking.
lifelong. Yes, this is life. It's lifelong. So it's lifelong.
Absolutely. And it's just doing what you can do when you can do it, and
Absolutely.
embracing that and being proud of that. That's really what it is. So, but it was super nice talking to you. So I want to ask you one thing. If you
Yes.
could give people, listeners that might be experiencing something similar, what would one
Mhm.
piece of advice be that you would give them?
Just one, huh?
Just one. Well, if it has to be two, that's cool too.
I would say learn to listen and trust your inner voice.
Amen. Love it.
Learn to trust it. Hone that skill, become one with your intuition, your inner knowing, and your inner guide. It will not lead you wrong.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Mhm.
So tell us more where we can find your information. I'm going to put everything in the notes. But just tell us where to find you, how to work with you, or what you do.
Sure, sure. So if there are nonprofits or any other kind of social do-gooders out there and you want me to help you tell your story, please reach out. I'm at prettyworkcreative.com. That's the name of the agency that works with all the lovely nonprofits. And then if you're interested in the film, we have a crowdfunding campaign coming up. We have a fundraiser coming up in Chicago. You can go to myfatherthequeen.com. You can get links to the crowdfunding campaign, which is Fund My Father the Queen. So all of it's pretty easy. We'd appreciate all your support. We think it's a great story, and we know it's going to facilitate a healing for a lot of people.
You got it. You got that right. Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for coming on. I appreciate it. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it was great talking to you. And for
Same.
everybody out there listening, it's another story of hope and inspiration, and knowing that it doesn't matter the trauma, it doesn't matter what happened. There is healing on the other side if you just listen to your heart. Thank you very much, and have a blessed day.
Bye, everybody.